interest of getting things finished in time, we'll go ahead and start, and people will hopefully, who are trickling in, will trickle in before the actual questions start. So I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Deb Verber. I have a second grade daughter at the school. I am on both the PTO and the parent council, but tonight I am here as the PTO representative. So we'd like to welcome everyone and thank you all for being here tonight and for showing interest. Kind of some of just the background facts. Today you're going to be hearing from 5 different candidates who are running for school board. Minnesota state statute requires there to be at least 1 teacher, 1 parent, and 1 community member. The Tcgis board is a parent majority board mandating at least 6 parent members, 2 Tcgis teacher members, 2 community members, and then there's 1 open spot making up the 11 seats. The current board is made up of 2 Tcgis teachers, 7 parents, and 2 community members. 1 teacher member and 1 community member are rolling off of the board, and 2 parent members are running for re-election. The selection, the board has 4 seats to fill. 1 seat is open to any category of candidate, and the other 3 are designated as a parent, a teacher, and a community member. All elected board members will serve a 3-year term, which will end in June of 2024, and commit to attending monthly executive committee meetings, 2 additional committee meetings, and the board meeting. Board members volunteer approximately 10 to 12 hours a month. We all know that can vary based on the current needs of the school. Elections will be held through a secure online platform during May 10th through the 14th. And the details for voting will be sent out at a later time. Next, we'll pass it over to Carrie.
Hi, I'm Carrie Ray, and I'm the parent of a 6th grade boy, Magnus Halverson. And I'm here to represent the Peace Parent Council. I'm the secretary this year. And I'm also here to introduce our moderator, Jake Holdreth, who is also a parent of a 6th grade boy as well. So first, we'd like to begin by welcoming everybody. Thank you for joining us, and thank you to all the candidates for running for the board and volunteering. And we'd like to read the school mission, vision, and values. So the mission statement of the school is innovative education of the whole child through German immersion. And Jake is going to read the vision in German.
The vision statement is andere hören, andere sehen, weltoffen denken und handeln, which means
yes, educating multilingual world citizens who listen to others, see others, and think and act with an open mind. The Tcgis learning environment values curiosity, kindness, challenge and support, community, and intercultural engagement. And each candidate will have the opportunity to answer the questions within a limited time of 2 minutes for each candidate. And now, Jake, would you like to introduce our candidates?
Yes, thanks. So just to let everybody know the procedure here, I'm going to ask each candidate to introduce yourself, and I will take the candidates in alphabetical order. And I'll just start with an introductory question for each and let you introduce yourselves. I won't presume to make the introduction of you. The way we'll proceed then is I have a series of questions. I will read each question twice so that audience members listening will be able to hear and process the question. I'll read it one time and then I'll read it again. And then you will have 2 minutes to answer, including the introduction, although if you'd like a little more for the introduction, we'll maybe be a little looser on time on that one. I will rotate the starting person for each question. So for the first question, Julie will start and we'll go down the list in alphabetical order. For the second question, Kevin will start. For the third, Yasmin, and so on. To assist you with the 2 minutes, my son Alex has made some handy cards, which I will show you at 1 minute and 15 seconds. And then when your 2 minutes are up, just to help you know how much time you have on each question. So with that, let's start with Julie. The first question is to briefly introduce yourself and share particular skills or experiences that you would bring to the board. The essence of the question is, why would you like to be on the board? Again, the question is briefly introduce yourself and share particular skills or experiences that you would bring to the board, and tell us why you would like to be on the board. And I'm just going to dispense with the time limit for this question. It's an introduction. Julie, please go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Jake. My name is Julie Alcatute. I have 3 kiddos. 2 of them attend Tcgis right now. One's a first grader, one is a 4th grader. My oldest is a Tcgis graduate. He graduated last year. I am motivated to be on the Tcgis board because I strongly believe in our mission and our vision and the outcome that I see in my oldest son, and basically that we're creating bilingual, open-minded people that have a global mindset. And my experience, what motivated us as a family to join Twin Cities German Immersion School was just that. I studied in Germany when I was in college, and at the time I was dating my now husband. Tarek is a Palestinian immigrant to America, and he had an uncle who immigrated, a Palestinian immigrant to Germany. So he has a German uncle and aunt and cousins. And I was able to go over to Germany and meet with him and meet his family and talk with them in German and really form a really great connection with his family at a time when Tarek and his family weren't able to travel to Germany due to the humanitarian visa that they held. They weren't able to leave America at the time. So it was just a great way that we were able to form this strong connection with our family in Germany. So we wanted our kids to have that opportunity to be bilingual and open-minded. And I love that it's a public charter school and that Tcgis gives this opportunity to all children, regardless of their backgrounds. And I've served on the board for the past 3 years. The first year I served as the vice chair and the administrative liaison. And the last 2 years I've served as the board chair. And it's been really fun. I enjoy working with this group of people and tackling the problems that we have at our school. I bring, I guess, a unique perspective as a research scientist, as a professional role. My background is in chemistry and biomedical engineering. So to the board, I bring critical thinking skills that I've honed in that professional work environment in corporate research at Medtronic. And it's been helpful this past year evaluating all the COVID data as well. So I would like to continue on the board because I'm excited about the strategic plan that we've written together with administration, Vision 2025, and I would love to help support that and implement it, get it off the ground. I think we have a great start from this year and would love to nurture that and continue it forward. And it's a rewarding position because we get to support so many kids at the school and really set the school up to support hundreds of more kids that will attend the school in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Kevin Eberhard. The question is, please briefly introduce yourself and share particular skills or experiences that you would bring to the board.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Kevin Eberhard. I am originally from Austria. I grew up there, went to public schools there, also went to a public university there and studied German and English to become a teacher. Before coming to the US, I also did an exchange semester in Eau Claire. So that was really my first time coming here in 2015 to Eau Claire, Wisconsin. That was a little bit of a culture shock coming to small town Wisconsin, but I enjoyed it very much, also helped by the fact that I pretty early met my wife, now wife, there. Yeah, we had a long distance relationship for about 3 years. And in 2018, I finally, moved over here and found the school in Austria, applied here, and learn to like and love the school and the mission. I also have a degree in American literature and culture. I wrote my master thesis on the representation of African American men in Hollywood and independent movies, which was very interesting, and I think fits in very nicely with the current mission of diversity and inclusion that the school embraces. What else about me? Since coming here, I've been a German teacher in the middle school. I taught every grade level there is in middle school, German and social studies. This year, I also had the opportunity to work as a co-coordinator, as a in between teaching staff and administration, which was a really nice new experience for me in this very difficult year. And this spring, I also had the opportunity to be part of the curriculum committee and the hiring committee, which were both very insightful opportunities for me. And that is probably also the reason why the board caught my interest, because I saw first of all, how nice the other board members were and how open the discussions were. And I really want to look behind the curtains and see what governs the school and how the school actually works. What I bring to the table is an open mind, critical thinking skills, discussion skills, communication skills in both German and English, and also a very different perspective being an Austrian. I don't think we have very many of those around. I'm looking forward to the opportunity. Thank you.
Good. Thanks, Kevin. Next, we will have Jasmine Rhodiosvik. And again, the question is to please briefly introduce yourself and share particular skills or experiences that you would bring to the board.
Yeah, thank you. Guten Abend zusammen. It's a pleasure to speak to all of you tonight. My name is Jasmine Rhodiosvik, and I've been working at Tcgis for 2 years. I currently teach 7th grade German Humanities, 5th grade Sozialwissenschaften, Sozi, and I'm the coordinator of the DAF program at Tcgis. DAF is a program that looks at how we can support students in regards to German when transitioning to Tcgis later in their school career. I'm also on the staff council representing international staff. I grew up in North Rhine-Westphalia, Germany. I went to public and private schools. The private school I went to was a Waldorf school where my parents actually served on the school board. I finished both my masters of education and my Referendariat for Hauptreal- and Gesamtschulen in North Rhine-Westphalia, Cologne. This is a mandatory 1.5-year teacher training program for lower secondary education. I've been working as a teacher for German as a foreign language, for English as a second language, and for social studies in different schools in Germany, especially Realschulen and Sekundarschulen, if you're familiar with the German school system. And I also taught in India at an international school, and then I moved to the Twin Cities, and now I'm here. I love learning about different school systems and school approaches, and I have always been interested in teacher education, in how schools function, and this is basically the main reason why I also apply for the school board. I learned a lot about this already in my own teaching career and through my work at Dortmund University in Germany. I'm interested in the school board or serving on the school board for the different reasons. First of all, I'm 200% committed to the school, its mission, mission, vision, and values. And I'm amazed by what our students are achieving already. Being an educator and language teacher, I'm just amazed by the immersion program that we're having. I love seeing how the students acquire their language skills through the schools, through the program that we're having. And yeah, I think it's amazing that we all come together because we stand behind this immersion experience and want our students to have this amazing opportunity. What I would bring to the board is an additional teacher perspective, the perspective of a German native speaker and a strong educational background. I also would love to promote innovative thinking school-wide and support the community in achieving the goals for the next years. Of course, I read the strategic plan, and it's amazing to see what we would like to achieve, and I would like to support the school and the community in achieving the goals. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So next we will have our community member, Ludwig Kreuzinger. And again, the question is, please briefly introduce yourself and share particular skills or experiences that you would bring to the board.
Yeah, thank you, Jake. My name is Ludwig Kreuzinger. Some of you know me already because I have been fairly active in the German American business community in the Twin Cities for the last, let's say, 20 years. I was born and raised in the northwestern part of Germany, a beautiful land called Ostfriesland. Went to public schools, public University of Oldenburg. Within that time in Oldenburg, I actually was a partner of Kevin because I went to Menominee. I went to Stahl for a year, got introduced to the Midwest, to Wisconsin, and also to the Twin Cities then. Went back to Germany, graduated there in business and accounting, and started to work there in public accounting. My first 17 years of my career have been in public accounting, and came to the United States to work here in 1998 for a company called Grant Thornton. Worked for them here in the Twin Cities for 12 years. No, actually 10 years, but because I went back and worked for them in Paris for a couple of years. During that time, I got my master's from St. Thomas and MBA from St. Thomas. Since 2009, in 2009, I left public accounting and went into the private sector. First worked for a American subsidiary of a German company, also in the financial field, being the VP of finance for an RFID company. And since 2013, I've been working in the same role, basically VP finance / regional controller for a company called Nexterra Analytics, which is a part of Nexterra Energy, the largest provider of renewable energy in the world. And for the branch here in the Twin Cities, which is an R&D branch, I run the finance department. So as you can see, there's tons of financial experience, not so much on the education side, but I think through that I can bring a complete set of fresh eyes to the board and really support the chamber in financial matters, the school, I'm sorry, in financial matters. I'm also currently the president of the German American Chamber of Commerce in the Twin Cities. And through that, I have a lot of connections and networks in the business world, and consider myself quite well connected in the German American business community. And as I said before, can bring a fresh set of eyes to the board and maybe help the school, not only help the school further the plans, but probably think outside the box and bring fresh ideas. I think the Twin Cities German Immersion School is the best German cause in the Twin Cities, and has been a role model for a lot of other schools. I've been contacted by our board members in Chicago who are working with the Chicago Chamber, the Chicago school, and they say like what you guys have set up in Minnesota is amazing and it's great, and we like to model that. My connections to the school have been a lot throughout the years, because the chamber has worked very closely to this with the school when it came to fundraising. We had we participated in common events, our gala, and then also like we supported the school in many ways. And I think the school has a great cause and deserves to be further brought further in the Twin Cities here. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And the fifth of our five speakers tonight is Nick Ludwig. Nick, the question again is, briefly introduce yourself and share particular skills or experiences that you would bring to the board.
Hi, thanks. Yes, Nick Ludwig. I have been a Tcgis board member for almost 5 years. I started kind of when my first kids started at the school. So right now I have a 3rd and 4th grader. And previously I've chaired the governance committee, the facility committee, and have been part of the finance committee for a long time. And I currently co-chair that committee. Previous to volunteering at Tcgis, I was a treasurer for a small ECFE group and as also a board of trustees for the Minnesota 4-H Foundation. So I have a lot of nonprofit board experience, and I think my experience here on the board will really help continue the great things we do at Tcgis. My background also includes business operations management, finance background, and then entrepreneurship. I've enjoyed being part of a team of directors helping to lead the school. I think my biggest success was leading the construction project to solve the space need at the school. This was a very complicated issue that took a lot of involvement of many stakeholders over multiple years. And the project's completed successfully, on time, under budget, all great things. It's an amazing space that we have. I want to be part of the next phase at Tcgis and supporting the strategic 2025 plan, which continues to bring to life the mission, vision, and values of the school. I feel like I collaborate well with the incoming board members as they've come onto the board, as well as kind of keeping those relationships on outgoing board members. And I work well with other parent volunteers that have stepped up to help the school community. I'm excited to work with the incoming executive director. I enjoy tackling large, complicated projects that are multifaceted. And having been at school for 5 years now and on the board for 5 years, I bring some board and institutional historical knowledge. Some other highlights of my time here at Tcgis is securing a $35,000 grant from the city of St. Paul. I've connected with local businesses for fundraising for the school. And I helped the school connect with Zero Waste St. Paul to begin the discussions about their waste reduction initiative, which should bring in another grant for the school. So that's my experience. I'm really excited to continue working on the board.
Thanks, Nick. So we're going to go now to the timed questions. You'll have 2 minutes each to answer these questions. And again, we'll rotate the first speaker. And so we'll now start with Kevin Eberhard. And the question is, how do you define success for students at Tcgis? What are some formal or informal measures of success? Again, the question is, how do you define success for students at Tcgis? And what are some formal or informal measures of success?
I would say the same thing that Tcgis's mission says, really educating the whole child and understanding success academically, but also socially and personally. And I think that's what we are already doing at Tcgis, really educating kids, preparing them not just for the business world, but also to be personally and socially successful in their lives, in high school and university and beyond that. I think measures, formal or informal measures of success. Formal measures are definitely the testing that we do, which is very helpful to see where we have to navigate, where we have to focus maybe a little bit more. Informal measures of success, I would say, is how how do classes interact with each other? How are our values represented? Are students responsible? Are they friendly? Are they kind? Are they safe? I think our values speak very well to what our goals are.
Thank you, Kevin. Our next speaker is Jasmine Rhodiosvik. And Jasmine, again, the question is, how do you define success for students at TCGIS, and what are some formal or informal measures of success?
Yeah, so let me start off with the definition of success. So success is an accomplishment of an aim or a purpose. And I think our aim and purpose is the education of the whole child, as Kevin already mentioned. Our students acquire language skills, they excel in academics, they develop different competencies and skills that are important for their future learning and their career. And most importantly, they unfold their individual personalities. A successful student at TCGIS is ready for their next steps in life, and they are prepared for everything that will come. And probably transitioning to high school is what will come next for our students after 8th grade. Our students should feel ready for this, and at the same time, they never should have the feeling to feel the feeling to be rushed. A successful student has learned through the lens of a different culture and has therefore gained perspective in different questions. A successful student at our school should be able to look outside the box, and there are different ways to measure the success, but let me add something else first. I also asked our 8th graders, current 8th graders, how they would define success, because I was interested in how they would define their own success after 9 years of TCGIS. They see their experience at TCGIS a lot differently. They have been longer at the school than I have, and they see it a little differently. But we agreed on many things. They said success to them means to be able to communicate in German, to express knowledge, passing the DSD, making friends, getting decent grades, having fun, learning new stuff, getting to know new people, being kind and learning from mistakes, and being prepared for high school. And they already mentioned the DSD, which is one of our big tests at the end of 8th grade, that at which scores we should have to look at. And there are also other tests that we can look at. Plus, we can also ask guardians, alumni, staff. I'm sorry.
It's perfectly all right. Yeah, we'll all get used to the timing, and I forgot to give you the 1-minute card. I'm sorry about that. Next, we have Ludwig Kreuzenga, and the question again is, how do you define success for students at TCGIS, and what are some formal or informal measures of success?
Success, how do I define success for students at TCGIS? I think it's important that students who are in the school and later on go on in their lives become part of a social, multicultural world. And I think the school is preparing the students to become such members. If I see how the Twin Cities have evolved into a, let's say, more multicultural world or a community over the years, I think the students would fit right into that community and further grow the community of, for example, the Twin Cities here with their multifaceted education they receive at the school. Formal, informal measures of success. I would say formally, of course, you have testing scores, you have graduation rates, but informal measures, I think it's much more important to see how the students grow and what they actually become later on in life, and be a role model for current students to see what can be achieved, what can be accomplished with the well-rounded education the school is providing to them. So that is probably much more informal than I think any the testing scores or graduation rates, but I think that's for life, it's a much more important success measure than for the students. Thank you.
Thank you. Nick Ludwig, the question again is how you define success for students at TCGIS and some formal or informal measures.
Thanks, Jake. When we talk about success for students, it makes me think of the whole child part of the TCGIS mission, academics, social emotional learning, global citizenship, namely German. I think we best measure success when we consider the individual progress and growth over time. On the German language side, measuring acquisition through the A1, A2, and DSD1 are important milestones for our students. Informally, I think having kids excited about going to school every day and feeling like school is a safe place for them to be their authentic selves, and creating a community that has lasting relationships. So.
Terrific. Julie, same question. How do you define success for students at TCGIS, and what are some formal or informal measures of success?
Thank you. I would define success for students at TCGIS to be if our school is a place where every student feels that they belong. I want each student to know that they can be themselves at school and that their uniqueness will be supported and celebrated. Success is if each student has school friends that they see outside of school, and if each student is greeted by name by several adults at the school every day. Success at TCGIS is literacy in German and in English, and being fully prepared for success in high school, and developing a globally minded outlook that's unique to the TCGIS experiences that they have, such as the capstone exchange. And success is a student who believes that they can become whatever they want to become, and that they have the tools to make that happen.
Thank you. So we'll move to our next question now, and rotating again, Jasmine will be the first person to answer this question. I'm going to go to one we didn't have last year. The question is that the board is responsible for oversight of the school. In light of that, what are characteristics of an effective school board at TCGIS? Again, the board is responsible for oversight of the school. What are the characteristics of an effective school board?
Yeah, thank you. I think that an effective school board focuses on student achievement. It has a vision, a mission, and has a plan and goals in mind, milestones that should be achieved, and they should be linked to student achievement. Student success should be, job number one. And along with this, of course, having an overview of the curriculum and the quality of the teaching. Speaking of curriculum and the quality of teaching, I think the school board allocates resources for needs such as money, time, personnel, and finds out and determines where to put these resources. In order to know where and what to invest, of course, the school board needs to collect data, review, analyze, and monitor what is going on. And if the goals are achieved, it is important to choose, of course, carefully how the data will be collected. And an effective school board also serves and engages the community they serve. We have a strong community already that has been suffering from this year, I think, a little bit. But I'm looking forward to working on increasing the community engagement next year and bringing back those cultural activities, gatherings, student engagements, after school activities and such, engaging everyone who's part of the school. And I also would love to see them want to become engaged. Thank you.
Thank you, Jasmine. Next, we'll hear from Ludwig. And again, the question is, the question is, the board is responsible for oversight of the school. What are characteristics of an effective board?
Yeah, the responsibility of oversight goes along with working with the school to achieve the goals of the school, but also provide the appropriate oversight / controls / I would say support so the school can actually meet the needs and meet the mission statement, meet the goals. What are the characteristics? I think the most important part is communication. In my prior life, I made the experience that everything works if communication lines are open, if people talk to each other, if people talk freely to each other, meaning they really talk about the problems and discuss the problems, hear both sides of the problems, and then make educated decisions based on all the measures and all the values that are there. So in my mind, communication is the most important part here. Thank you.
Thank you, Eberhard. The next speaker will be Nick Ludwig. And again, Nick, the question is, what are the characteristics of an effective school board?
Sure. The board has done a lot of work to create a clear mission, vision, and value statement for the school. More recently, the work has changed to include how the mission, vision, and values come to life in the school. I think developing the 2025 strategic plan is the roadmap that helps Tcgis progress and reach our goals. We need to hold the executive director responsible for that roadmap, and the staff and teachers for living and breathing the mission, vision, and values, and buying into that strategic plan.
The next speaker is Julie Alcatu. Julie, the board is responsible for oversight of the school. What makes an effective school board?
I think my keyword I'm going to go with is collaboration. We have to be collaborative people with our other board members, but also with the administrators. I think that's key, to collaborate with the administrators, be supportive, and at Tcgis, a key to success is being aware of the multiple hats that we wear at the school, as parents or as teachers or as community members and board members, and just being aware of that role and what role you're playing at the moment. The other key is transparency. I think the board needs to be as transparent as possible, so people trust the board and know that we're acting in good faith for the school. And so that's another key. And a well-operating board needs to have multiple viewpoints, a variety of perspectives, and the ability to have open and honest discussions with each other so that we can hear each other and come to the best decisions. And the board needs to have solid goals for the school in that oversight capacity so that the school's executive director and the administration and all the teachers and staff know where the ship is going and are on board to help us get there. And then I think an effective board is visionary and skilled at strategic planning.
Thanks, Julie. The last speaker on this question is Kevin Eberhard. The question again, what are the characteristics of an effective school board?
Sure. So many good things have already been said that I completely agree with. I would also maybe underline again that a successful school board is a board made out of people who listen to each other, who collaborate amongst each other, but also with other stakeholders that the school has, and is inviting to those other stakeholders. Communication is obviously important. Transparency is important. All those things have already been mentioned. What I'd really like to point out is that I think we are already looking at a very successful school board that is just looking for some new additions. And it's very good to see that there are two current board members who are willing to invest even more time and are running again. And also that there are always community members who are willing to invest their time, as well as teachers who are invited, first of all, into this forum, which is not normal in, I think, every school, as I've learned. My wife is a teacher at a different school where teachers have no voice on the board. So I think that is a very good view to have there. Yeah, and just you can see the positive environment, and I think that is very, very important. That is key to success of the board, of the school, and yeah, and at the end of the students.
Thank you, Kevin. The next question will be addressed first by Ludwig, and the question focuses on opportunities for the school and the board's role in them. The question is, what are 2 or 3 opportunities that should be priorities for the board in the short term? And how do you see the board addressing these in an effective way? Again, what are 2 or 3 opportunities that should be priorities for the board in the short term? And how do you see the board addressing these in an effective way?
I see the opportunities very much in expanding the school's network in the Twin Cities, and the school has already been very successful in doing that. But I think that can be expanded even further. The school has been very successful, and Kevin has elaborated to that already. But I think the success can be made even bigger by further letting people know about what the school is all about, and reach out to the Twin Cities community, not only the German American community, but also to the American part of the Twin Cities community, and further expand the network. I think that's an opportunity I see. Also, I think the school is probably I'm not sure in the short term right now after this COVID year, but I think the school is also reaching capacity again. So, and I think another challenge is this: what can the school do in order to further grow? And I think how can the board help? I think the board can support all these endeavors for the school, and by reaching out to the network, to the community in the Twin Cities, by further networking the school and communicate to the community outside.
Thank you. The next speaker will be Nick Ludwig. Nick, what are 2 or 3 opportunities that should be priorities for the board in the short term, and how can the board be effective in addressing them?
So yeah, as we reset after COVID, I think it's important for the school to reestablish our traditions and create new ones to kind of bring the school back together. We've spent a lot of time interacting virtually, and I think in-person time together, like our Oktoberfest fun run, teacher onboarding and tea building events on a regular basis, school picnics at the beginning of the school year, welcoming the kindergarten class in the ways that we have in the past, I think will be great. Thinking of some new ones. I tried a new thing this year, plunging into cold lakes, and I shared that with a teacher, and she thought that was a great idea for all the teachers to try that out. I think you and your husband participated there too, and he had a lot of fun. So yeah, I think thinking of those ways to kind of build that community and getting us back together, while not forgetting how great the tool of having the virtual option is to bring people together, because we all have difficult lives with having to navigate meetings is kind of tough, and the virtual connecting is good as well. And then I think lastly, really just onboarding the new executive director, that'll help set up the school for success, and kind of setting that relationship up to be successful, and having truly an oversight board instead of a hands-on board. So
thanks, Nick. The next speaker is Julie Alcatu. Julie, what are 2 or 3 opportunities that should be priorities for the board in the short term, and how can the board be effective in addressing them?
All right, I'm going to agree with Nick's last point. Top of my mind is onboarding the new executive director as the first priority. Introducing the executive director to the school's mission, vision, and values, really driving home the importance of all of that in our school culture, and helping just manage the transition between the directors and making it as smooth as possible, and providing institutional knowledge and any support we can give her as she learns about the leadership needs that our school has. And then another priority I think the board should focus on in the short term is providing resources that are needed to help our students transition back to a more normal school year. Our kids are going to have unique social emotional needs as they transition back, and I think the board needs to plan and budget effectively and prioritize funding for resources that the students may need for this support. An example would be the school is hiring a social worker to work full-time next year to support kids, and that's in addition to the behavioral specialist that we currently have. So those are a couple short-term priorities on my mind.
Thanks, Julie. Next, we have Kevin Eberhard. Kevin, can you comment on what are 2 or 3 opportunities that should be priorities for the board in the short term, and how can the board address them effectively?
I think, yeah, right at this time, I think we all kind of still in this pandemic year, which has taught us a lot, and which makes us long for stability. So I think the opportunities that the board has to take are linked to creating stability again after this crazy year. One way to do it, as Julie already said, is establishing a positive working relationship with the new director who's coming in pretty soon, making sure that the director gets to know how the school works, but also brings in new ideas and is helped and supported by the board. Other opportunities that I see from this COVID year are definitely how do we use our building now that we finally have it. We could barely use it this year, so I think there is definitely a great deal of opportunity there. And I think the board or subcommittee is already working on that, how to make it a very positive, welcoming, and immersive space. And also attaching to that a financial aspect, making sure that our gym is used and is able to also provide funds for the school in that way.
Thank you, Kevin. And the final speaker on this topic is Jasmine. Jasmine, could you comment on 2 or 3 opportunities that should be priorities for the board, and how the board can be effective in addressing them?
Sure. So many good things have been said already, and I think the top priority for me would be transitioning back to a normal school year, guiding our students, supporting staff, offering opportunities, PD opportunities, materials that we can use to create, to use the new building and to create a safe and welcoming space for students. Some of them have been at home for over 1.5 years then. Of course, helping the new executive director transitioning to Tcgis, welcoming her and supporting her as good as we can, then reestablishing all the traditions we had, and thinking about ways of how we can rebuild the community, the strong community that we had. And I also want to speak to the networking, and I think that there's a lot that we can do within the cities, but I also would love to see networking with different educational institutions in the German-speaking countries, and also while networking with those institutions, maybe looking at how can we bring in a more diverse perspective, or maybe more diversity into the school, since the German-speaking world is a quite diverse one and we are not representing this all the time. So those are a couple of things that are all important that I would like to see as priorities. Thank you.
Thank you, Jasmine. So the first speaker on the next question will be Nick Ludwig, and this question has to do with conflict resolution and consensus building, and your experiences with it. The question is, please describe your past experience with conflict resolution and consensus building and how you would apply your experience to the board role. Again, please describe your past experience with conflict resolution and consensus building and how you would apply that to your board role. Nick?
Thank you. So I think I spent the better part of 3 years leading the building project, and there were many perspectives and competing interests. And so finding common ground amongst those groups, it took many volunteer hours of info gathering, presenting, collaborating, starting, stopping, restarting, rethinking, changing, re-engaging people. And I think I learned that you have to be willing to not give up and keep problem solving, thinking differently and critically, and engaging others, sometimes experts, and just kind of keep the focus on getting the work done. So I think that's kind of how I approach conflict resolution.
Thanks, Nick. Julie, you're next. And the question again is, please describe your past experience with conflict resolution and consensus building and discuss how you would apply that experience to your board role, or have, I suppose, in your case, applied that.
I kind of feel like I wish I were more successful at this particular aspect, but I do try. So my approach to conflict resolution is to talk about it, to get parties together and have a conversation, and to work through the different perspectives and try to understand each other's perspectives. And yeah, I tried to do this with some different conflicts that I saw at the school. I really do wish I had done a better job, but I don't know, it's not my my expertise. So I might lean on other people to help, mitigate those conversations. But I do have good intentions and try to resolve conflicts when possible. And I have been successful at doing this at work. So maybe I can stick with working with scientists and engineers.
Great, thanks, Julie.
Yep.
Kevin, your turn to address the question of, please describe your past experience with conflict resolution and consensus building and how you would apply that to your board role.
Mm-hmm. I would fall back on all the experiences that I had as both a teacher, interacting with students who had conflict, or even among staff, which can be tumultuous at times, but also as a husband, which where conflict exists as well. How I usually try to tackle these things is not get emotional, listen first, speaking later. That's usually how I try to do that. I am very interested in different points of view and always try to find the mistake first in my own work or in my own thinking. And I think that is something that I would bring to the board, really listening to all sides. And then, yeah, looking at our goal, what do we want, where do we want to go, and then make a decision based on that.
Thank you, Kevin. Next is Jasmine. Jasmine, please tell us about your experience with conflict resolution and consensus building and how you would apply that experience to the board.
Yeah, what I have learned through the work at different schools and different positions is that conflicts most often result from misunderstandings and miscommunication, and sometimes not meeting expectations or having different expectations around one thing. Of course, these happen naturally when communicating through different channels with different people, not directly, communicating not clear enough, or understanding things differently because of different and various reasons. And at school, of course, different people come together, they have different backgrounds. So it's important, I think, to set a common ground, set values that we have already, and meet and communicate with positive intent. We ask our students to think before they speak, and the same should apply for adults. And when a conflict occurs, I think it's important to, I would say the German phrase first, and then try to translate it into English. Das Übel an der Wurzel packen, find the root of the trouble, and then yeah, see what is really going on, because often we only see what's happening on the surface, but we should dig deeper then and find out what we're really dealing with and what the underlying issue is. So listening to people is a good approach. Also being able to explain, offering perspective and fostering positive intent is great and important when finding solutions and resolving conflict.
Thank you, Jasmine. And the final speaker on this topic is Ludwig. The question again is, please describe your experience with conflict resolution and consensus building and how you would apply that experience to the board.
Yeah, thank you, Jake. Are you actually telling me there's conflicts at the school? I'm kind of surprised about that, because there's conflicts in every organization, and I don't really know which conflicts there are on the board or in the school yet, but I'm happy to learn about them. What my approach is pretty much what Julia has talked about, is there's always multiple sides to the story, and you have to listen to all the different aspects of the problem. And as I said before, communication goes a long way. So you need to be able to sit down, listen, and put all the arguments and put all the reasonings together, and then build a consensus so that that the school is actually the beneficiary of a decision and not an individual. So it's always the school as an organization is bigger than all the individuals involved. And if you find a consensus which is actually supporting the school's mission and supporting what the school is all about, and I think that that's the way to go.
Thank you, Ludwig. The next question will be addressed first by Julie Alcatut, and the question has to do with, we were asked already about opportunities. We'll address the other side of that coin, which is challenges. Could you please explain a specific current challenge facing the board and the school, and describe what the board and the school can do to tackle this challenge? Again, the question is, please describe the current specific challenge facing the board and the school, and describe what the board and the school can do to tackle this challenge.
All right, thank you. The challenge I'm going to describe is the financial sustainability challenge that we see on the horizon for our school. And so namely, the school's revenue is tied directly to student enrollment. And We've been a growing school this entire 16 years of our existence. And very soon we will stop growing as far as student enrollment is concerned. We'll top out at 648. And so that's on the near horizon. And when we see that happening, we realize our revenues will flatten along with the student enrollment. And if we're lucky, we'll get 2% increase every year from the state. But we know that our salaries and benefits increase at a higher rate than 2% every year. So the challenge is, how will the school fill that gap in revenue and expenses? And we'd like to start planning that pretty quickly. So I see I have 1 minute, but a few steps: critically evaluate our current budget, how we spend our money, and really dig in and make refinements, and make sure we're meeting all of our priorities and spending all the money wisely. And another big thing we'd like to do is advocate for equitable state funding for public charter schools. And we would like to make a systemic impact that benefits all public charter schools. And last resort, we would love to evaluate business opportunities to generate additional revenue for our school using any intellectual property that we have unique to TCGIS, establish new programs, and but really be planful about that and make business plans, make sure it's feasible to generate income that way. So last and not least would be to boost fundraising, but that's definitely a challenge. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. The next person to address this question is Kevin Eberhard. And the question again, please select or define a current specific challenge facing the board and the school, and describe what the board and the school can do to tackle this challenge.
Sure. The challenge that I would like to describe and explain a little bit more is diversity inclusion challenge that the school has been facing. But I think one advantage that the school already has is that it has done the first step, which is identifying that there is even this problem. So the next steps of the board and the school will be to step by step try to make the school more diverse and more representative of the community that surrounds it. And by doing that, avoiding making that into a signaling or PR exercise, but really mean and stand behind this mission that the school has put forward. And I think one way to do that is really try to establish relationships with community groups in St. Paul and around the school in the Como area, and really reach out to these communities and really try to establish long-lasting relationships and avoid just using diversity as something that you can put in when it's convenient to you and you profit off of it, but really stand behind it, mean it, and make it a part of what TCGIS stands for.
Thank you, Kevin. Next is Jasmine, and the question again, please define a current challenge, specific challenge facing the board and school, and describe what the board and school can do to tackle this challenge. Jasmine?
Yeah, thank you. There are a couple of challenges mentioned in the strategic plan, and Julie has spoken to the financial stability. Kevin has spoken to diversity and inclusion. There's also staff retention and student recruitment mentioned along with the diversity and inclusion. And another thing that is mentioned is meeting the needs and expectations of all stakeholders, both or all three: diversity and inclusion, staff retention, and meeting needs and expectations of all stakeholders are kind of linked to maintaining and finalizing a strong K-8 pedagogical concept that we are currently working on. And I think that the school board overseeing the ongoings in the school has already recognized how important it is that we have this on our agenda and keep working on the strong concept that would allow for different approaches, and also make our program, make German Immersion, make our concepts more accessible and more equitable for all our learners, both learners that are at the school already, but also future learners that may decide to go to TCGIS or come to TCGIS a little later in their school careers. I think it is important to look at milestones to create clear goals, and also oversee how these goals and milestones are achieved, and yeah, look at how we can work together as a team to make the concept a great one for everyone. These 2 minutes are just too short.
I know, I'm sorry, it's brutal format. You're all doing a wonderful job of giving us good substantive answers in the time. And I'm sorry to be so mean with my cards, but it will help everyone get a chance. Hubert, again, for you, the question, please explain a specific current challenge facing the board and the school, and describe what the board and the school can do to tackle this challenge.
Yeah, all the challenges which have been mentioned, diversity, inclusion, COVID, and relationship and teacher retention, all these challenges are also opportunities. So if you face a challenge, opportunities will come about. And I would like to pick up the tab where Julie left it off on the financial side, to think outside the box, what other opportunities there are for fundraising. Where can the school generate more money in order to further grow? There are certain limits to current revenue streams, but I think there's some other revenue streams which could potentially be tapped. And I would like to help the board and help the school do that through networking with the German American business community, with the chamber, and with the Twin Cities community. And as I said, like, challenges are there to be tackled and to be turned into opportunities.
Thank you. Finally, Nick Ludwig, the question is, please explain a current challenge facing the board and the school, and describe what the board and the school can do to tackle this challenge.
Thank you. Yeah, Julie, you really hit the nail on the head. I think it's really the financial aspect. It's something that is going to be a challenge, and it's going to be an immediate need for us to begin problem solving now. I really think it's kind of a multi-pronged approach to bring in additional funds. I think robustly building the DAF program to bring in students in the higher grades that may have limited German, I think is a real opportunity for this school to provide additional tutoring outside the normal school day for those kids and other kids that are struggling with German language acquisition. I think developing a communication plan to establish and build relationships with our elected officials at the Capitol. We need multiple touch points with many people on the Hill. And then I think developing multiple revenue programs, I think outlined in the 2025 strategic plan, like a summer school, pre-K 4-year-old, German language childcare, perhaps additional German language support for either elementary or middle school kids are a way to generate that. We do have a great facility that could be part of that. So I think we have a lot of opportunity to kind of use kind of what we have set up to help generate some money. And I think collaborating in a way to get additional funding for all educational institutions, whether it's charter schools or traditional district schools, I think, all have been largely underfunded for many, many years. And I think it's about time there's somewhat of a revolution in our education funding. And I think people are ready for that. So.
Thanks, Nick. All right, I'm going to announce a question I intend to ask as an open question to give everybody a little time to think about that. It won't be the next one, but I think it might be nice if everyone has a chance to take 2 minutes to speak to whatever topic you think is important that I may not get to. You may address one of the challenges, one of the other candidates identified that you didn't speak to, something else that you think is important that hasn't come up yet, or something that we should know about you that we haven't had a chance to learn yet. So keep in the back of your mind that I'll give you a chance to comment on that a little later in the evening, and maybe think about what you might like to say. But we'll ask one of the prepared questions now, and I think Kevin Eberhard will be the first person to address this one. The question is, what role should the board play in school culture? And how would you support administration to help foster a positive school climate? Again, what role should the board play in school culture? And how would you support administration to help foster a positive school climate as a board member?
I think the board functions as a role model for the entire school because it has this responsibility, this last responsibility. And you could really see that in the special meetings during this pandemic year that I think the board meetings were very attended very in high numbers. And you could see that everybody was kind of looking at the board to find stability and confidence and calmness. That's why so many teachers, parents tuned in. And I think the board did that pretty well because discussions and conversations were usually very rational and yeah, friendly and usually merit-based. I also watched other board meetings at other schools where this did not happen in the same way. So I think that is really something that I see the board playing a role in creating a positive school culture. Along with that, I already talked about the building. I think the building can be a great asset in creating the school culture by creating it in a way that is, first of all, immersive, has a lot of German input on it, a lot of diversity on it, and is, all in all, welcoming and positive.
Thanks, Kevin. Jasmine will be next. Jasmine, again, the question is, what role should the board play in school culture? And how would you support administration to help foster a positive school culture?
Mm-hmm. So everyone plays a role in school culture: students, staff, guardians, community. So the board plays a role as well. I think looking at the big picture, school culture cannot only be improved through the administration, but by the whole community. So it's difficult kind of to answer this, this question, but in a nutshell, I think that the school board and administration should work hand in hand, setting goals, making decisions, and communicating these to stakeholders, and communicating them from that perspective they have agreed on. A positive school climate is one where one feels valued, one feels welcome, and this means that we all have to welcome and value the others in our community. If we want to improve and foster positive school climate, we should first have to analyze and understand the current culture and identify room for improvement. So the school would need to find out which aspects might be toxic and which might be positive, and how to reinforce positive elements. So how we could do this is to make parent and student involvement meaningful, value feedback, thinking of staff, listening to their concerns, celebrating personal achievements, not only outstanding achievement, but also celebrating that they're just doing a great job. Milestones should be set, PD tailored towards professional goals. And I'm hoping that we are having traditions and rituals back very soon, being in person again very soon, and having actual conversations together that happen naturally and foster these positive climates.
Thank you, Jasmine. Eberhard, it's your turn to address the question. And the question again, what role should the board play in school culture? And how would you support administration to help foster a positive culture?
Yeah, what role should the board play? I think the board, it's very important to have a diverse board. What I mean with diverse in this sense is diverse experiences. I think if you have different experiences or people with different, with a variety of experiences on the board, that can really be a role model to the school and show and support the school in a way that this to think in different perspectives. And I think it's very important that the school is has teachers, has parents, has community members, and has members on the board which bring a lot more to the table than just, and I don't say that with any lack of respect, but just education, because there's more. The school plays a bigger role in the community, and I think a diverse board will certainly support that and help that.
Thank you, Ludwig. Next is Nick Ludwig. Nick, the question again, what role should the board play in school culture, and how would you support administration in fostering a positive culture?
Yeah, so I think the board should be involved in creating a positive school culture. The board is made up of teachers and parents with kids at the school. I think the board can hold space for a variety of culture building activities. I think a good example that Chair Alcatute brought forward in the last couple of years is the board starting to recognize the teachers and community volunteers as an example of that positive school culture building. The board should continue to be a positive place for communication to happen, a two-way communication. The community needs to know that the board will listen and things won't get lost or be a dead end for them.
Thanks, Nick. Julie is the final speaker on this question. And again, Julie, the question is, what role should the board play in school culture? And how would you support administration to foster a positive culture?
Thank you. So the board plays one unique role in the school, and that is reviewing the executive director, providing guidance for the executive director, and providing feedback, and providing development opportunities. So I think that's a big role that the board plays, because I think the executive director is a key part of setting the school culture. So that's a unique aspect of the board. And the board itself, I think all board members act as role models at the school. They're all leaders, and people look to board members for guidance in this way. So I think it's key to be available to listen to all stakeholders. If someone reaches out with concerns, be available and listen, be present at school events, show support of school events. And I think board members can also spearhead and support initiatives. One example of a community building event that I spearheaded last year was the community garden. And it was a fun thing to do over the summer. It got people together, and I'm happy this year to hand it over to our mission and school culture committee and let them take it and run with it. And speaking of that, that's another thing the board can do, is establish committees to support the priorities that the board has set. And so we did establish mission and school culture committee for this reason, to be a venue for people to meet and discuss school culture and make improvements. And I think we've seen some success of that in the past year, where open and honest conversations happened and then positive change came out of it. So thank you.
Thank you, Julie. I want to make sure I did this right. Everyone has been heard on that topic. Yeah, Kevin, you got to address it first. Okay, good. Jasmine will be the first speaker on the next question, and we will turn now to stakeholder engagement. You should give stakeholder its broad definition, where it could be any stakeholders of the school, students, parents, teachers, administration, community, any stakeholders you'd like to address. The question is, What steps would you recommend to the board to expand stakeholder engagement? Again, what steps would you recommend to the board to expand stakeholder engagement? And Jasmine, please let us know your thoughts.
Yeah, thank you. I was thinking about this for a second. As you said, stakeholders are parents, are staff or guardians and staff, students, but there are also other stakeholders. And I think it's important that the board knows that everyone should be engaged. And I said this earlier, want to be engaged in the school community and in the school life. And I think there could be more cultural events that create awareness of what could be done. I think what has been observed this year is that here and there, teachers were trying out different things to engage students in cultural learning, which was great. And I think from looking at what others were doing, others got more ideas about what could be done. And I think by looking at what others are doing and sharing what is working and what is appreciated, that is something that could be done and could be asked for or could be looked into more. I also would love to explore more options in keeping our alumni in the community. I think that they have a lot to say and they have a lot to share and they have a lot to bring in, and it would be nice to just keep them with us. So that's one thing I have thought about the past few weeks when I was meeting some alumni in the subcommittee meetings I attended. So yeah, those are things that I wanted to mention here. Thanks.
Thank you, Jasmine. Next will be Ludwig, and the question is again, what steps would you recommend to the board to expand stakeholder engagement?
Yeah, I would like to focus this answer on expanding to the business community, to the interested business community. And I think the stakeholders in that community can bring a lot to the school. Not only can the school offer the services, if I may say that, to members of the German American business community, if there's a need for like people who would like to send their kids to the school, but also, as I said before, when it comes to fundraising, fundraising and sponsoring the school. And I think the steps the board can take is to reach out to those members, and I think the board has already, of course, reached out to me as the president of the Chamber of Commerce, but as such, we have a big network, and we like to make the business community and our members aware of what the school is doing. And we already invited the school to talk to our members, but I think we can expand that much further. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eberhard. All right, next we'll hear from Nick Ludwig. Nick, the question is, what specific steps would you recommend to the board to expand stakeholder engagement?
Thank you. Yeah, I think this is always a challenge, right? But I think we need to meet people where they are when we communicate. So using the variety of ways and channels that people, to channel people to things like the Eltern brief, board emails, encourage attendance at the board meetings, getting various stakeholders involved in board committee work or task forces, and then celebrating accomplishments whenever opportunities present. Jasmine touched on, cultural events, bringing people together, I think is going to give us a point to engage them in the work that's going on at school.
Thanks, Nick. Julie, you're next. Could you please address what steps you would recommend to the board to increase stakeholder engagement?
Yeah, I think one of the best ways is direct outreach to our stakeholders, inviting friends to participate in board committees or the PTO, tell them about being an EK, I think the direct outreach and recruiting for volunteer opportunities is key. And I like to tell people, well, the great experience that we had hosting an intern, I think everybody would benefit from hosting an intern, and I think it really sucked me into the school. So try to just tell your experiences about, why you enjoy doing the volunteer stuff that you're doing. And something I've done as a board chair is gone directly to parent council to advocate for more volunteers, showing areas that we have openings in our subcommittees, for example, and hoping that the parent council can do some outreach as well if they know people that are interested in those things. So, and as far as we've been also writing summaries of what happens at board meetings. It's not all boring. I try to make the meetings actually pretty fun and interesting and engaging. And so I think people just need to read what cool things are going to happen tonight, and then maybe they'll tune in. So that's one approach I've been taking.
Thanks, Julie. And the last speaker on this topic is Kevin Eberhard. Kevin, could you please discuss the question of what steps you would recommend to the board to increase stakeholder engagement?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is to create a variety of opportunities for everybody to become engaged, because not everybody likes planning events, but other people maybe would like to get involved in a different way. So I think it's really important to create various ways of reaching people first, letting them know what the school is doing. And I think one way that the board has done now during this pandemic year is making board meetings, recording board meetings, making them available to a broader public, not just people who can attend in person, but tune in virtually. I know that there have been a lot of approaches to reach various stakeholders via forums, Google Forums, and meetings where different stakeholders can come together and share different perspectives. Cultural events were talked about. I think there's a lot out there, and there has to be a lot out there because people are so different and people respond to different things.
Thank you, Kevin. All right, I'm going to ask one more of the prepared questions, and then I think that will bring us to the point where I can ask an open question and give you all a chance to address something you'd like to address that you haven't had a chance to yet. Ludwig will be the first speaker on the prepared question, and the question is, relates to difficult decisions the board has to make, and telling us about what your approach would be to making those tough choices that the board sometimes has to make. The question is, in your professional experience, what criteria do you use to make difficult decisions? And how will you use those criteria to make difficult decisions as a school board member? Again, in your professional experience, what criteria have you used to make difficult decisions, and how would you use them on the board? Ludwig? And I think your mute is still on.
Sorry about that. Sorry. I think this is very similar to what we've discussed before when we talked about conflict resolution. I think it's important when you have to make difficult decisions to make informed decisions. So gut decisions are sometimes good, but I think it's much better if you have everything on the table, what you need in order to make good decisions. And I think, again, communication is very important here. And in the past, I've used that when people have different expectations of each other, and people have different viewpoints of certain topics, rather than having them clash. Rather, it's much better to talk to each other, to communicate to each other, and then make a decision, not only as me as an individual, but as a group. I think last time when I was at the school, and I really liked that, I was handed this little sticker here. I don't know if you can read it. It's probably a little blur. It says gemeinsam sind wir stark. There's two terms in there which are very important: gemeinsam and stark. So as a board, there's never an individual, and the group is always bigger than the sums of the part. So I think people can reach much more if they make decisions as a community and grow much stronger out of that.
Thank you, Eberhard. Next speaker on this topic is Nick Ludwig. Nick, the question again has to do with hard decisions. In your past professional experience, what criteria have you used to make difficult decisions, and how would you apply that at the board?
Thank you. Yeah, I think there's multiple ways to problem solve and make decisions. Being open to different strategies. Any decision making requires engagement with stakeholders to fully understand a topic, gathering enough information to make a decision. And this could include surveys, SWOT analysis, etc. Evaluating options for moving forward, sometimes gathering further stakeholder input along the way, understanding the impacts those decisions may have on varying groups, even if those groups have competing interests. And not being afraid to make adjustments after you've made a decision to get it right.
Thanks, Nick. The next speaker is Julie Alcatu. Julie, the question again is, what criteria have you used in your past professional experience to make difficult decisions, and how would you apply that at the board?
Sure. My favorite thing is data in making decisions. So that's what I go to first. And if I don't have the data that I need, I do the research to find the information that I need. So that's step one. And then I apply critical thinking and in considering all the data that's available. My daughter is next to me, distracting me. Okay.
We'll give you a few extra seconds.
Thank
That's
you.
a challenge.
After critical thinking, I evaluate my own biases, recognizing that I do have bias just like everybody else. And I try to identify that and make sure I'm not being too thrown off by that. And then I consider ethics. I like to consider what is right and do the right thing, especially and even when it's difficult. And basically, in the end, for the school, as far as the school is concerned, I would ultimately want to make the decision that is best for the children who the school serves. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie. I think it's the witching hour. I just had my 11-year-old come in to say goodnight as well and collect my dishes. That was nice of him.
She just got back from judo, so there's a lot of energy there.
Indeed. Kevin Eberhard is next for this question. And Kevin, again, the question is, what criteria have you used in your professional experience to make difficult decisions, and how would you apply that at the board?
What I've learned during my studies and also during my time as a teacher is usually making difficult decisions becomes easier when you have done the research first and you know a lot about the decision you are going to make in the situation you're in. So I think that is the most important, to really know everything about the situation you're in, the stakeholders you have to respond to, really testing your decision before you even make it. Talk to people who maybe have a different view than yourself. So that is usually how I try to approach making difficult decisions, is really taking my time if possible, thinking it through, and deciding by keeping the goal in mind that we hopefully share.
Thanks, Kevin. And the last speaker on this topic is Jasmine. Jasmine, the question again, what criteria have you used in the past in your professional experience to make difficult decisions? And how would you use those criteria at the board?
Yeah, so I know that school boards often deal with controversy, and that's of course due to the different stakeholders and different ideas and expectations coming together. So of course it's difficult to make decisions. I think many decisions that one has to make many are difficult, but when making these, it's important to gather the input and the feedback. And it's also important to follow up on decisions and if necessary, adjust. So for most aspects, for some aspects, decisions may not seem fair for everyone, but we shouldn't also forget that there's a plan out there, that there are clear goals out there that we should always be taking into consideration. And this should also be taken into consideration when gathering feedback. It's also important to explain why certain decisions have been made and be very transparent to be transparent. You were asking about my past professional experience, and I think having a master's degree in social studies where politics and civic education take over quite a big chunk in the curriculum, I have been trained to foster democracy in classrooms and make use of democratic approaches in classrooms. In German, this would be Demokratie, pädagogische Ansätze. So of course, I would love to listen to others and hear what others are thinking, give room for discussion, and then find compromises and agreements together. And I think that once a collective is making a decision and things are considered and discussed through, it is much easier to make a decision. And yeah, this has not only been observed in classrooms, but also I was able to experience this in my role as a coordinator and as a leader in different settings.
Thank you, Jasmine. All right, we've reached our final question. And as I promised you, I hope you'll feel it's an opportunity. We're going to have an open question where you can choose the topic you'd like to address. We'll start with Nick Ludwig on this one. And feel free to address any topic you like. It's completely open to you. If you're not sure what you'd like to talk about, you could talk about, if you haven't already, the new director, enrollment, the interns, and resuming the intern program. You could talk about any fears you have about the board or the school. You could address any comments you heard somebody else make that you'd like to add to, or you can finish an answer that you didn't get to finish, or you could simply sum up and tell us about your hopes for what you can contribute to the board. So open floor, whatever you'd like to talk about. Let's start with Nick Ludwig. Nick, go ahead.
Sure. So I guess first, thanks to Director Albers for being the leader on the governance committee to put this together, the PTO and the parent council for representing everyone here. And then Jake, thank you for moderating. Yeah, I just think about the 5 years that I've been on the school board, and my position really is, how can we get things done? When faced with a difficult problem, I think it's sometimes easy to get stuck on why we can't do something. And I think that's just kind of been my motto in life, is just like, how can we accomplish this? And just kind of looking for ways to get done what needs to get done. And so I guess I don't have more to comment on. I think the questions posed tonight were very diverse and the answers were just as diverse. And so, yeah, I guess I'm excited at the opportunity again to serve the Tcgis community, the students, the staff, and just kind of be part of the leadership. And so thanks everyone for taking your time to listen to us tonight.
Thanks, Nick. Next, we'll hear from Julie Alcatut, and Julie, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you. Let's see, I would like to talk about the strategic plan, I think, and just kind of how that came about. When I joined the board 3 years ago, I did a lot of listening to different stakeholders, I interviewed, I think, 14 outgoing staff members. If you recall, it was a tumultuous year for the school. So I heard a lot of feedback, took it all in, and really critically evaluated it and brought it to the board with themes, brought it to administration, and had the groups talk about what we could do. And we implemented some goals 2 years ago, 6 strategic goals. Admittedly, we were pressed for time with the building project going on, and at the same time, so I was glad to get those goals going, but I'm even more excited that we have a written strategic plan now that really has fleshed this out and gotten into the meat of what we need to do as a school. And it was my pleasure to lead that initiative for the board and administration, and working closely with Ted to get that written. And I think we're going to be able to achieve our goals, and it's going to be very exciting. So I'd just like to mention that. And one of my, something I'm proud of as my board achievements is the sign that you see on Julia's little icon there, the Alle sind hier herzlich willkommen. That was my very first initiative as a school board member, was to order those signs from the wonderful company that created them. And I wanted to do that to show our support for diversity, to make sure everyone is feeling welcome and that they can belong at our school. And it really kicked off the diversity initiative 3 years ago. And it was also a fundraiser. So we're achieving multiple goals with that one project. So it makes me happy to see that those are integrated into our school communications and continue going in gemeinsam sind wir stark version this year. So for me, it's been fun. Yes, there it is. Thank you, Libert. It's just been really fun and gratifying to see what an impact one can have at our school in this capacity as a board member. And so I would love the opportunity to continue in that capacity as a volunteer for the school. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie. Next, we'll hear from Kevin Eberhard. And Kevin, the floor is yours.
I would like to link the recent past with the not so distant future. I think we all have gone through a lot in the last months, and I think we've also learned a lot in the last months. And together with the plan that's already written down, I think we can use that momentum now that we are kind of feeling this enthusiasm and relief coming back. I think we can use that momentum going forward over the summer and into the fall. Onboarding a new director, I think there's a lot of things we can look forward to. And we've also seen that not everything necessarily is set in stone. So there is still a lot of flexibility and change that we can make. So I'm really excited to be part of this project, either as a teacher and board member or just as a teacher. I'm just really enthusiastic and intrigued by this project. And yeah, I also want to thank everybody for giving us the opportunity tonight to speak about the school and speak about our ideas in this venue. And yeah, I'm just really excited and thrilled and motivated to start the next step for our school.
Thanks, Kevin. Jasmine, we'll hear next from you. And although I will give you the 1 minute and the 15-second sign, I will not show you the stop sign. So, please.
Thank you. Yeah, I want to speak again. I have touched upon this, I think, 1 or 2 times already, but this is really important for me. I want to speak to student retention and recruitment and making the program, the German Immersion program that we're having, more accessible and equitable for all our learners and families. This is more of a long-term goal. It's also mentioned in the strategic plan, but I think that there's also a link to fostering diversity and then increasing student success. And I think there's a very high need in creating more equitable learning opportunities and support systems for all our students, no matter when they join the school. I have been working on the DAF program the last year, and I have seen so many things that students and families could benefit from and could get more support in. And I know that families have also reached out and want to be supported a little more. Yeah, those families are, or some of our families are facing challenges, and I would love to see the board and the community exploring different options of how to overcome these, and also have the access to our strong program, no matter what their background is or what their needs are. We also should not forget about our students who need to be a little more challenged. We have a very heterogeneous student body, so we also need to consider this when working on our pedagogisches concept over the next few years. And I also would like to look into why students are leaving TCGIS before 8th grade. I know there are various reasons, but I want to look into this a little closer and explore options of how we could fill these slots and how those students can also be successful in our school with our program. I have thought about different things, different ideas, and I know that many parents have different ideas, and other stakeholders have also ideas of how to make the school more accessible for many other students. And yeah, this is all I want to say. Thank you for listening and inviting me to this meeting tonight. And I'm looking forward to continuing my work at the school.
Thank you, Jasmine. And Robert, you have the privilege of the last word and an open floor. Please go ahead.
I guess I'm the oldest why, right?
Mhm.
So I would like to thank the PTO and the Parent Council to invite me to this forum. And I'd like to say that I'm very honored to be considered to be voted onto the board. I think it's an honor, and I think it's also an obligation which comes with it. I learned a lot tonight just by listening to all the comments, challenges, opportunities, and everything the school is facing. And I know that I will learn probably much more once I would be elected onto the board. But I think I can bring a lot to the board from an outside perspective as a community member. And this is what I said before, the thinking outside the box and the connections to the business community and the German-American community in the Twin Cities at large. So I would like to thank you all for listening tonight and to give me the opportunity to talk to you all about what I or maybe the chamber can actually potentially bring to the school. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I'd like to thank all of the speakers. I certainly learned quite a lot, and it was a pleasure to get to listen to you. And I hope the audience found the questions helpful. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Carrie.
Well, thank you to all of our excellent candidates for your very thoughtful responses and ideas. And we are very lucky to have such a robust community of incredible people willing to participate in the success of our school. So thank you so much for being here tonight. And Deb, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, thank you, Jake, for leading the way through the questions, and Emily for all your work behind the scenes. And Emily now has the important role of getting this election rolled out. So make sure you're checking your email for when you get the link to vote. And if we learned anything from the past few years in the world, every vote counts, even if you think something is a foregone conclusion. Vote, vote, vote. So watch for those links and vote. So thank you all.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.